I never imagined I'd come so close to falling right here in my own kitchen. It was a simple morning, a damp floor, a small distraction, and suddenly my foot slipped, just enough to shake me, just enough to make me stop. That moment didn't end in a fall, but something shifted inside me, a quiet voice, asking if I was truly paying attention to this space where I begin and end so many of my days. Sometimes it's in these almost moments where nothing serious happens that we receive a message, not loud, not dramatic, just a gentle nudge, reminding us to care a little more, to notice what we've been overlooking. Today I want to show you what changed here. I didn't spend much. I didn't tear down walls. But I made choices that brought back something precious, peace of mind. Maybe you've had a moment like that too. A scare that stayed with you, or a feeling that something needed to shift. This story isn't about fear. It's about awareness, about listening to what your home, what your life is asking of you now. So, take a breath, settle in. Let me walk you through the quiet changes that brought comfort back into this space. It wasn't until I nearly slipped that I truly noticed the small things. The floor beside the sink, always a little damp after washing. The rug, curling at the corners. A narrow gap near the cabinet that caught the edge of my shoe. These things had always been there. Familiar, invisible even. But sometimes it takes a moment of stillness or a scare to reveal what's been quietly waiting to go wrong. There's something humbling about realizing how easily we can overlook the everyday. Not out of neglect, but out of routine. We get used to what surrounds us, and the things we step over or around can slowly become part of the background. But awareness changes everything. Not with fear, but with care. Thoughtful, patient care. I started paying attention to how I moved through this space, where I slowed down, where I tensed up without meaning to. It was in those quiet hesitations that the hidden risks became clear. There's no blame in what we miss, only invitations to see again, with fresh eyes. And when we do, something beautiful begins. We stop living around the danger and begin living with more presence. Some changes are so simple, they can almost go unnoticed, but their power lies in their consistency. After that moment in the kitchen, I began a quiet practice. Each time I washed the dishes, I dried the floor. Every time I wiped the counter, I made sure no water had dripped beneath. It wasn't about perfection. It was about presence. I chose tools that made this easier. Soft cloths that absorb well, a small squeegee that fits in one hand. These little adjustments gave me more than a clean floor. They gave me confidence, a sense of peace in knowing I'd tended to what needed care. There's something comforting in the rhythm of tending to a space with love. Each pass of the cloth, each pause to notice a droplet left behind, becomes part of a larger gesture, one that says, this place matters, and so do I. There was a time when I didn't think twice about the rugs beneath my feet. They were decorative, familiar, part of the background of daily life. But after that moment of almost falling, I saw them differently. A rug can ground a space or unsettle it. It didn't take much, just a small layer of protection beneath what was already there. Nothing changed on the surface, but everything changed in how I moved. It was no longer about avoiding the edge or stepping carefully. It became easeful, quietly safe. There's a kind of comfort that comes when we no longer have to anticipate danger in the ordinary, when each step, however small, meets something steady. There's something quietly powerful about having something to hold on to. After that near fall, I noticed the small moments where I reached out of habit, out of instinct, searching for steadiness. The edge of a counter, a chair that wasn't built to support weight, a wall that offered no grip. It didn't take a renovation, just two modest bars, one near the sink, another along the wall where I often paused. They weren't expensive, they weren't complicated, but the difference they brought was quiet assurance. Support isn't always about what's visible. Sometimes it's the feeling that you're not alone in a space, that something solid is nearby, that if your body wavers, something is there to meet you without judgment. These bars became more than physical support. They became a symbol of listening, of meeting my needs not with fear, but with grace. There was a time when I didn't notice the shadows, a soft flicker here, a dim corner there. My eyes had grown used to it, but what they adapted to. My body didn't always trust. Light does more than reveal. It protects. It guides. I chose a low-energy bulb, easy on the eyes, steady on the nerves, just 12 watts. Yet it brought clarity I hadn't realized I'd been missing. Then came a small pendant light above the sink. A simple beam focused on where I needed it most. Not too bright, just enough to quiet the guessing in my steps. Illuminating a room isn't about brightness. It's about feeling grounded, at ease in your surroundings, certain that each step meets something seen. Sometimes the smallest light can make the biggest difference, not only for our safety, but for the soul's sense of calm. There's a quiet kind of relief in knowing exactly where things are and reaching them without strain. I used to bend low for the soap, stretch high for the towels, not thinking twice, not noticing the way my body resisted, just a little more each day. So I made the space come to me. Low bins on wheels, light containers with handles, each object resting where it's easy to see and easier to reach. It wasn't about making the kitchen perfect. It was about making it kinder. Sometimes care lives in the small decisions, not just what we keep, but how we keep it, what we reach for, and how our body feels in the reaching. These quiet changes don't shout, but over time, they speak. They say, you matter, your comfort matters, and your home can meet you where you are. This space hasn't changed much in appearance. No walls were moved, no grand renovations. And yet, everything feels different. What shifted here was subtle, but its effect reaches far beyond these few square meters. There's a kind of peace that comes from knowing the ground beneath you is steady, that the routines you move through each day have been softened, made safe, not just for your body, but for your spirit. These weren't just changes to a kitchen. They were choices that honored a deeper rhythm, a new season of life that asks not for speed, but for presence, not for control, but for harmony. Sometimes healing begins not in dramatic steps, but in the grace of small actions. A rug secured, a light replaced, a drawer rearranged. Each gesture a quiet promise that your space is listening to you, that it can hold you gently as you are now. This was never just about avoiding a fall. It was about something greater, a way of living that makes room for ease, for dignity, for peace, in the place where life continues to unfold day by day. There's a quiet joy in walking through a space that meets you with kindness, a place that no longer demands caution but offers comfort, not through grand gestures but through intention. These small changes, they weren't about making things perfect. They were about making things feel right. I made these adjustments without tearing anything down, without spending much, just a few thoughtful steps. But what they brought me was something I can't quite measure: peace in the everyday. I hope this story opens a space for you too. Maybe it invites a new way of looking at your own home. Maybe it stirs something that's been quiet inside for a while. Your life doesn't need to speed up. It needs to meet you where you are, with gentleness, with clarity, with grace. Thank you for being here with me. If this brought you something good, something true, I'm glad. Until next time.